I just wanted to do that.
Good job.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday, July 12th meeting of the Placerville City Council. Will everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I haven't run one of these in person in quite a while. I think the last time I was mayor, I was completely on Zoom, so bear with me here. Let's go ahead and have roll call, please.
Vice Mayor, Mayor Taylor will be noted as absent. Vice Mayor Saragosa?
Here.
Councilmember Borelli?
Here.
Councilmember No?
Here.
Councilmember Thomas?
Here.
Threw me off there a little bit.
All right, thank you. No ceremonial items tonight, so we'll move on to item 4, our closed session report, and our city attorney has a report out for us tonight. Thank you, Mona.
Thank you. The council did meet in closed session tonight on real estate matters. The council voted 3-0 to provide direction to staff on the price and terms concerning the properties listed on the agenda. Councilmember Thomas recused himself due to the proximity of property adjacent to the properties in question and the potential for an impact on his economic interests, and Mayor Taylor was absent.
Okay, thank you, Mona. Moving on, we'll go to item 5, adoption of the agenda.
Move for adoption.
All right, we got a first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? All right, agenda adopted. Moving right along to item 6, and item 6.1, brief comments by the City Council. And I will start with Councilmember Borelli.
I attended the League of Cities, what are we called? The division. Our division. God, I couldn't think of that. Anyway, up at Tahoe the other day, along with Dennis and Jackie, and we had a wonderful meeting presentation by our wonderful Mark Egbert, and a fellow then that talked to us all about the water situation in our area in California. It was a great meeting. So, unfortunately, it was my first view of that horrible, the remnants of that horrible fire. I was just absolutely shocked. I should have been more prepared, but I wasn't. However, I was surprised by the amount of work that's already been done, and they are doing with the, clearing the logs, and it's amazing. So, anyway.
Drive on Mormon Immigrant.
My daughter just went up there, and she said it's unbelievable.
It's hard to even fathom how bad it is.
How
It's
sad.
just,
Oh, my God.
thank you, Patty. Councilmember Thomas.
Oh, thank you very much. I went to the League of California Cities meeting with Patty, and
And congratulations, by the way. I forgot Dennis was elected to an office.
yes, thank you.
Nice.
I'm secretary.
Yeah.
And it was a great meeting, like Patty said. There's really probably one of the, not the best part, but one of the good parts was the view. I mean, we were right on the lake, and it's hard to pay attention at the meeting because we had the lake in the backdrop the whole time. But with that said, that's it for me. And we had a great 4th of July. So.
All right. Jackie.
I also went to that Sacramento Division League of Cities meeting, and I have been working on that food waste for our green bin. And so I've got the bags, which I found incredibly useful if you're trying to put all your food scraps. Like, I put it in my bag and I leave it in the bottom drawer of my refrigerator because putting it out in this weather is just crazy with all the animals and everything. So I just wanted to have everyone know about these bags. They're helpful.
Are those the compostable bags?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mine was filled. It looks like I'm going to have to go get a second green bag waste bucket because I have so much leaves that every week or every 2 weeks I'm full. So there's really not a lot of room for food in it now. So we'll see how everybody else.
That's a lot of food.
It is a lot of food.
That's a lot of food.
Yeah, I know for two of us, right?
Yeah.
Michael, or Mayor, excuse me.
Yes.
Can you, I think there's a question about what the bags are. Can you?
Oh,
maybe, or if you want
sure.
to.
Councilmember, no? You want to?
Yeah, if you go to the El Dorado disposal website, there's a picture of the approved bags that you can use to put in your green bin with your food waste. And I had, Cleve actually told me about them because they were talking about the ick factor and I hadn't gotten a bucket and I didn't know how the buckets were working. And so I went on Amazon and I got a pack of those 100 bags. They have to have this one little symbol on them. And as long as it has that symbol, then it's compostable and it can go in your green bin. I don't know.
I've seen them at Ace, True Value as well. There's different versions of them.
I believe the symbol is BPI, or
Yes.
if I recall right. That means they're...
Call the garbage company.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there may be a run on those because nobody wants to toss their old salmon into the green waste. Okay, thank you, Jackie. For myself, nothing really to report. Same, had a wonderful, wonderful 4th of July here in town. I mean, just tremendous weather for the 4th of July. I can't remember one that was that cool. So I hope everybody else had a great time with their family and friends as well. All right, moving right along to item 6.2, and this is a PG&E fire safety outages update, and Mr. Morris has this for tonight.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We just wanted to get an update. So tonight we have Brandon Sanders, our PG&E, liaison that works with us. And I've gotten to know Brandon. He's been excellent to work with over the years. He was our representative, and then he left us? He left. Well, he didn't leave us. He was moved on to something else, and then he came back, and we're glad to have him back. He's working well. And he was actually, as many of you know, I went on the study mission this last week, and Brandon was on that with me, so got to have several conversations with him there. But with that, I'll turn it over to Brandon to go through the presentation.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. There you go. Welcome back, Brandon.
Thanks, Cleve. Hello, Vice Mayor Saragosa, council members. Brandon Sanders, your local government affairs representative from PG&E, assigned to Sierra Division to include the city of Placerville. I'd like to open, before I start my comments on the slide deck, just to note that we've been having, as a company, we've been having some challenges in how we perform in the city's view on some of our permitting needs, and just wanted to commend Rebecca and Cleve and the team. We had a really productive meeting earlier today with a number of key leaders, including our regional vice president. And as a company, we're really working hard to meet the expectations and really just some of the simple requirements of the permitting process here in Placerville. So just really want to note the collaborative and helpful nature of your staff and the team in that conversation. It was a good meeting, and we're going to work to be a better partner here locally. So I just wanted to acknowledge Rebecca in that respect. So I've got for you this evening a brief slide presentation. I'll move through it somewhat quickly so that we can focus on Q&A. I'm sure many of you have a lot of questions. The contents is as follows. I've got a sort of an overview of the system extent and sort of key features here locally, overview of some of the wildfire safety work we're conducting in the city of Placerville, which you can expect is also occurring at the county level on a grander scale across a wider landscape. We have recently deployed what we call our enhanced power line safety settings, which is a really interesting development in how we operate the grid locally, and I'll share some information about that. We continue to have the public safety power shutoff in our toolbox for situations that require a larger action to mitigate the threat of catastrophic wildfire. The good news is, as Cleve has noted previously, is we did have a good year last year and Placerville was largely unscathed. That's a result of multiple things. One was somewhat favorable weather here locally, but we've also taken some mitigating actions in terms of how the system is operated locally that's helped minimize those impacts. Finally, I'll talk about some customer resources that are relatively new and I think will be of interest to your citizens. In review, the city of Placerville, we have about 16,929 electric customers served. That includes both residential and business customers, as well as, of course, government customers. There's 57 line miles, nearly all of which are within the high fire threat district. as defined by CAL FIRE and the California Public Utilities Commission. This map illustrates that those areas of the city of Placerville that are designated to be within those high fire threat districts, as you can see, it's primarily the areas to the east of us, with much of, I guess you would say, central Placerville being in an untiered area. So this would be the focal area for anything such as a public safety power shutoff or an area that potentially could be affected by the enhanced power line safety settings, which I'll describe in greater detail momentarily. We have 3 goals underlying this entire effort. The first and foremost is to mitigate wildfire risk. We have taken a stand as a company that catastrophic wildfires shall stop. We can't allow it to continue, not just from our resources or assets, but just on a broader scale. We are committed to doing everything we can as a company, as a community of dedicated workers, to eliminate that risk in the communities that we serve. Additionally, minimizing customer impact through a variety of programs and opportunities for support. And we've done a lot around situational awareness, which I'll get into. We have done quite a bit of overhead hardening on the outlying areas of Placerville. We have completed around 1 mile of overhead hardening last year and another mile this year. I think what's even more important story to tell is we're either, I'm not sure if we're complete or nearing completion on an underground electric distribution circuit that's going to be feeding the Eschaton Village just up from town. That is going to remove that pocket of the community, if you will, from public safety power shutoff impacts going forward. Very important for us considering the demographic in that particular niche of the community. We did have, it's another one of those challenges that Rebecca has worked with us on. We did have, I believe, damage to a sewer main at one point. We apologize for that. I believe that we have corrected that at this point. The sectionalizing devices is where we get the most bang for our buck in terms of mitigating the size and duration of outages, whether it be an unplanned outage such as a car pole or vegetative contact, but also PSPS or EPSS, the enhanced power line safety settings. So in 2021, we completed the installation of 15 sectionalizing devices. These are essentially switches that allow us to section off portions of the grid here locally. We have another 7 planned for this year, including a number of switch devices in the vicinity of Placerville Drive and Ray Lawyer, which I believe is going to either minimize or eliminate wildfire safety outages for that particular portion of the city. This is just a further illustration, I believe, of that actual area on the, I'm not sure if you would call that the West Placerville, but that just illustrates the area that'll be essentially removed from scope of public safety power shutoffs as a result of these new switches being installed. And the nice thing about these switches is they're automated devices, so we don't have to have a troubleman go to each individual location. Those can be operated remotely from our grid distribution center or grid control center in Rockland, California. There was a point in time where I was working with Cleve to place a weather station on top of the Placerville City Hall. We took a little bit of a different direction, as you can see here. Does this have a laser? So you can see we actually have kind of triangulated weather stations, which we feel is actually going to give us a more accurate depiction of weather conditions locally, which is a big driver behind our decision to de-energize for public safety. We're also, we've also installed a wildfire detection camera. You can view those cameras at alertwildfire.org. So I'd like to talk briefly about our enhanced power line safety settings. We have deployed essentially highly sensitive settings on those automated pieces of equipment that I just described, to the point now where any sort of anomaly on a given circuit with EPSS enabled will de-energize within 1/10 of a second of a hazard or a fault. The reason we're doing this is to quickly and automatically mitigate the threat of wildfire originating from overhead conductor. And while inconvenient for those customers that are often affected by this, we have documented and reported to the CPUC that we have experienced a more than 80% decrease in wildfire ignition stemming from our equipment. compared to a 3-year rolling average on those circuits with the settings enabled. So highly effective. We've had EPSS outages, not so much in the city of Placerville, but more on the outskirts. Everything from animal contact, a Canada goose or a turkey vulture going phase to phase, causing an outage. We've even had situations elsewhere where a local water district activating one of their hydroelectric power plants has caused a voltage surge into the system. So there's some sensitivity or some aspects of it that need further refinement, but there's certainly no arguing that it's not effective in reducing fires. This infographic is available on our website, but it essentially demonstrates the process: a bird, a tree branch, an actual entire tree, contacting the overhead conductor. Within 1/10 of a second, the circuit is de-energized back to the closest sectionalizing device. We then will have to patrol and make repair as needed. We do have, like I said, any range of influences that could cause those outages, but we have had really great success in reducing the overall number of ignitions. So one question I often get asked are these enhanced power line safety settings going to carry through into the winter, and they will not. They're intended to only be enabled during the highest fire threat times of the year. So this here shows May to November. That's somewhat arbitrary depending on who you talk to. It could be, some people say fire season's year round now, but we really consult with CAL FIRE at the state level, U.S. Forest Service, and a number of others to determine when exactly we initiate these settings. And we will be notifying customers when the outages occur under EPSS. Unfortunately, we're not able to provide advance warning because it happens similar to any conventional outage we might see day to day. So we will make folks aware of the outage having occurred and provide an estimated time of restoration. In order for us to do that, we encourage our customers to make sure that their contact information is updated by visiting pge.com and logging into their account. Or if they would rather do it over the phone, they can call 800-743-5000, and one of our coworkers, our customer service representatives at the call center, will update their information in the system on their behalf. We've covered this in a number of meetings dating back to the very earliest ones where Placerville just got hammered. We've made strides, leaps and strides, and great improvement in how we deploy this tool, which I think was exhibited in the minimal impact last year. But just to review, it's sort of the confluence of high winds, low fuel moisture, low humidity, and just extreme fire threat that drives us to make the decision to de-energize for public safety. And we do know that just like EPSS, PSPS is highly effective. We have multiple documented instances where if we had not de-energized, a potential wildfire could have occurred, often as a result of falling trees, which tends to be the highest risk aspect facing our overhead equipment. This is in review, just a few of the factors that go into that decision-making process. We consult regularly with the California Office of Emergency Services, CAL FIRE, and others to include the governor's office as we move ourselves into what we call a readiness posture ahead of a PSPS event. It really is just that confluence of risk factors that drive us to make that ultimate decision. We are actively supporting a number of nonprofit organizations. This is just a very small subset. I know it says Placer Food Bank up there. This, I believe, is viewed in the lens through the entire county, and Placer Food Bank does support our customers on the Georgetown Divide under certain circumstances because it's just closer. But we are actively partnering with the El Dorado County Food Bank, 211, California Council for the Blind. We have an active and long-standing partnership with the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers that provides things such as backup batteries and other supports for those with access and functional needs as well. So I'd like to just close by talking about a few resources that we have available for our customers. We are providing things such as incentives or rebates for items such as batteries and generators. We have a lot of information available through 211, who we support directly. They assist us in sharing key information about wildfire safety, family readiness, household safety actions, and things that folks can do to ensure that their family and a household is safe in an emergency situation. The city has this slide deck and is welcome to share it freely across your social media platforms, or if you'd like to link it to your website or anything like that. But we have a lot of customer supports in place that we want folks to know about and take advantage of. We're also embarking on a program to provide at our cost a new type of meter for homes that are frequently impacted by wildfire safety outages. This meter would allow for the quick connection of a generator directly into the panel. So oftentimes you'll hear that folks would have to install an automatic transfer switch. This is similar, but it would run through the meter, and it's something that we would do at our cost. That information can be found at pge.com/transfer meter. We have new mapping tools online, and we also have our new PG&E Report It safety app that customers can download to their smartphone or other device. And if they perceive or observe a hazard in the field, they can report that to us directly, and we'll mobilize an inspector to go look at that piece of equipment. Two key web resources for the community: the wildfire safety webpage on pge.com, no ampersand, and safetyactioncenter.pge.com. We've developed this collateral or curriculum, if you will, through partnerships with CAL FIRE and others. A lot of good information there. I'd encourage our customers to take a look at that when they have some time. When folks have perceived wildfire threats stemming from our system, please email wildfiresafety@pge.com. That is the best and most expedient way for a customer's concerns about a wildfire safety issue to be addressed. It creates a ticket. We have a standard internally that be responded to within 30 days, if not sooner. We're beating that every day. But I know as elected officials, you often get inquiries. You're certainly welcome to bring those to me. I field those daily from multiple jurisdictions. You can also direct them to wildfiresafety@pge.com. That concludes my remarks. I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Appreciate the update. Go ahead and see if anyone has questions, comments.
I don't have well, I do have a question, and it's kind of a comment. Hello, Brandon.
Hi, Patty. Nice to see you.
Would it be a great imposition when we get those calls if they could tell us why? I mean, like a tree went down on a power line. I cannot tell you how upset people get because they think, oh, PG&E's done it again. But I think if they had a reason, just a real short explanation, tree down or animal, it would really help if that's not asking too much.
I hear that a lot, and I honestly don't have a good answer for you. We internally, typically we get the 911 call, right? There's an outage, there's a downed conductor. We mobilize a troubleman to that location. Oftentimes our partners in law and fire are waiting for us to arrive on scene to assess the situation. But sometimes I get the news that it's already been fixed before I even know what caused it. So it's very dynamic, and I understand the frustration. There will be, the one thing I will tell you that's good, and I can offer this up, is that if the outage is related to our enhanced power line safety settings, it does now say that on the website.
Oh, great. Okay.
So that's one small improvement. It doesn't get to your concern or that of all of our customers. We need more specifics. We want better information, more timely. But we have made that small improvement to note that if it doesn't say enhanced power line safety settings, then it's likely just a conventional outage. A lot of times what happens as well is outages will occur and people will have gotten a letter in the mail, because every time there's a planned outage for maintenance, we're required by law to notify every customer that's going to be impacted.
Oh, yeah, I've gotten those, yeah.
But a lot of times folks just think it's junk mail from PG&E. They tear it up and throw it in the trash.
Right.
So I'd encourage you to open all your mail from PG&E.
It just, there's something, and I don't know whether it's psychological or what it is, but if you know what it is, you kind of accept it a little bit better.
Sure.
And when they say it's going to be 2 hours, it's like, okay, yeah, there's a tree down. Yeah, it's going to be 2 hours, and we'll, like I say, I don't know. It just kind of, it's one of those added little tidbits that might help. So thank you.
I fully understand that. I wish I had a better answer for you, Council Member, but we will note if it's EPSS at a minimum. So.
Thank you.
All right.
So will the trailers be going in back up on Broadway to support the businesses on Broadway?
The generators?
Yes.
We do intend to deploy them again this year.
Do you know about when that's going to happen?
I've heard it's October 1st. Yeah. And that's largely due in part to we have refined our weather modeling. We're using new weather modeling tools, more aligned with the tools that CAL FIRE uses for fire modeling and weather modeling. And we have determined, and I think you saw it last year, that the thresholds have moved a little bit based on that aggregated 10-year look back on weather conditions in Placerville or in El Dorado County. But I've been told that for the microgrids, because we have 3 now in El Dorado County, we have Placerville, Pollock Pines, and Georgetown. And I've been told that the target date is October 1st. I wouldn't be surprised, and I'm fairly certain it'll be sooner than that, but that's really what we've laid out and what I've communicated to the Board of Supervisors more recently.
Okay. Another question. There's been some known to PG&E, but not to our city, power outages that were on by design, but there was no notification of those. Is there a remedy to that at some point here? I mean, are you guys working to fix? I mean, because this is not a new thing you guys do. Turn power off to fix things.
Yeah, it's a great question, Councilmember Thomas, and I know that there's a very specific example that Rebecca and Cleve are keenly aware of, and that was when the power lights on 50 went out.
Right.
And we have determined that we did not have the mapping done correctly and did not show in our GIS system that that particular light was mapped to the transformer that we took out of service. So in that situation, it was an error on our part. We had it mapped incorrectly. Had we known, or had we had the mapping done correctly, we would have worked with Cleve and Caltrans to deploy generation to that location. So that was a mistake on our part. That was unintentional. We did notify the customers that we projected to be out, but we just didn't at that point have visibility into that stoplight being affected. So that's an example. We've owned that. We've shown to the city that we understand that was a huge challenge. I know that
was a bit of a mess.
Yes, I know that your chiefs were certainly concerned over it. We fielded the concern. That has been corrected, and now we have, I guess we call it an enterprise alert. So now anytime there's going to be any outage projected within central Placerville in that sort of corridor, there's a special consideration and additional review that will be put in place so that we ensure that we give Caltrans ample time to generate those signals if we do in fact need to take them out.
Okay, so it is your practice normally to notify customers if you have a planned outage.
Yes, sir. I believe the standard is 2 weeks ahead of time, and that is done by mailing a paper letter to every affected address. And I know I've certainly received them, and it sounds like others have too. But if there's a point in time where customers are not getting that notification, please let me know. But as a company, I think we do a really good job of ensuring those letters are sent out timely because it's not an optional thing for us, it's mandated.
Right. I know there was an unfortunate string of events during that week or maybe 10 days where there were several power outages and that one particular one was unnoticed, and there was a few that was unexpected, and it just raises the level of anxiety and
absolutely
and concern and wonder, and everybody wants to fill in the void with a negative thought, especially with PG&E. You guys could be the bad guys pretty easy.
Right.
We'll fill in those thoughts with you in the negative sense because we don't have information, and so as you know, information is really valuable in those situations, especially for credibility. And I hope that what you all say is going to is where all these things are going to make this more palatable for our community, because it has been a very challenging situation for us here. And I know that you all have worked hard, and I know that our city staff has worked hard to maintain accountability on all this stuff too. So I look forward to this being a much better PSPS season. So thank you.
Thank you. If I may add, we are engaged with the city on at least one undergrounding project. It's a long-term project. It's not going to be simple. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take time, but we're also looking for other opportunities to put equipment underground in Placerville. I recently was made aware of El Dorado County being the highest number of planned undergrounding miles across the entire system. You may be aware that our CEO, Patty Poppy, has declared that we're going to be undergrounding 10,000 miles. And of all my counties, or for all the counties, El Dorado County is to receive the highest number of underground line miles across the system under that goal. So that's also kind of a positive forecast, if you will.
All right, thank you for that.
And then I had one other note, if I might, that was sort of outside the slide deck. After many years many, many years. We have a commitment from the electric substation line of business to paint the building on Broadway next to Save Mart. So you will likely be seeing our crews out there. And what's also kind of cool is that we purchased the paint from the paint store in Placerville. So, just a little piece of good news. And then one thing that I shared with Cleve that you all might find interesting, and perhaps another thing you might be able to share on your social channels, is we have a website. It's pgecurrents.com. And if you're looking for some alternative news about PG&E, it's a good place to look. We're doing a lot of really innovative things with energy storage, car-to-grid technology, and a number of other really fascinating, innovative things. So pgecurrents.com. It's interesting if you have some time some evening to take a look. It's good information.
Thank you. Any other questions? I had one. In terms of you showed us the map of the 3 weather stations, or sort of the they were sort of triangulated around the city. So under that scenario, when you have that triangulation, if you will, I'm hoping that means obviously less PSPSs as we move forward, but is there, will that still affect the whole city, or I'm just trying to get a better sense of how that's going to operate in a real life situation?
Sure. So the data feed is publicly available. I believe you can either go to pge.com/weather, or you can go to, it's kind of a longer URL, but it's mesowest.utah.edu. That's MESO west.utah.edu. And they have not only PG&E's recently deployed weather stations, but all of the weather stations. And it's kind of an aggregate location to find all of them. But really what this is going to allow us to do is be much more refined in our assessment of weather conditions in Placerville. In talking with meteorology, this is actually much better having 3 on the edges of town. It is much more accurate and usable than just having 1 on top of City Hall, is what I was told.
And will the segmentation of that also be part of it in terms of, so if you have better data, will that also allow you to segment down the areas that are going to be shut off?
Absolutely.
So it won't be like, because before we were getting a pretty heavy fell swoop when it came to.
It was the whole West County at some points.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's those days are gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any sense of how big of an area that is now? I mean, if you had to de-energize an area, like how micro that can be at this point? I'm just trying to get a sense of.
Just anecdotally, so last year, I think the largest PSPS, and most of the PSPS activity was centered in the northern Sacramento Valley. Mm-hmm. It's like the Shasta, Redding, and down into the Chico area. I think last year the biggest one was about 60,000 customers. And at the peak, the largest one was like 840,000 customers. So I think that's a demonstration of how we've further refined our process in consultation with weather experts, CAL FIRE, and using their modeling tools. A number of different things that we put in place has helped us to be much more strategic. And you may recall, we did say we want it to be smarter and smaller and shorter, and I think we have certainly moved in that direction and will continue to do so. Now that we have these enhanced power line safety settings in place, that has the potential to further reduce the need for PSPS because, and those tend to be 500 customers, 1,000 customers. It's really just between those protective devices, it's all a matter of how far apart those devices are. But I'm confident in saying that on a going forward basis, PSPS is going to diminish in impact. Of course, saying that will probably take Placerville down for a month or something. Best intentions, but that's the information that as I have it right now, sir.
No, understood. Councilmember Thomas.
Yep. This may not be very popular, but I want to extend my appreciation for the level of commitment you all are making to our city. I know that it was really rough a few years back, and that by virtue of everything you said and the work that you put in, I do appreciate the fact that you guys recognize the issue. You're stepping up to the plate. We can look back really hard and find all sorts of reasons why you guys, PG&E, I shouldn't say you, because you're very responsive to all of our questions and needs here in the city, but why PG&E has failed in so many ways. And to recognize the steps forward that they are making in this community and the commitment, whether it's undergrounding or the weather, the weather stations and the microgrids and all the different things. And it's some of it's based on our requests up here that we've had.
Of course, yeah.
The Placerville Drive and getting those businesses up and running, or at least being able to not to block them off so much as they have been in the past. All the things that you've done are making a difference in our community. And while we're still work in progress, I do want to extend my appreciation for the work that you have done. So thank you.
I really appreciate that, council member, and I'll convey that to the folks in the field because they're the ones making it happen. I'm just the one that gets to talk about it.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Brent, I just wanted to, by installing these 3 weather stations, that's going to give you all the information that you need of our area. And the reason I'm asking this is because in the past, especially the couple years ago when we kept having all those power outages, were constantly told that we were in an area that we shouldn't have been included in, as far as the PG. Like what happened in Auburn had nothing to do with the wind currents and all that stuff that was going on in Placerville. And that was a constant thing that we were told, is that PG&E did not need to turn off our power because we didn't really qualify for that wind. And I think that's what they based it a lot of the weather on, are the wind, situations in. So by doing this, and basing it on the information from here, is that kind of a guarantee that that's not going to happen again? Is that?
Well, I appreciate the question, Councilmember. I don't think anything's a guarantee. I do know that there were many conversations that I had with Mark Acuna, who was, then mayor when this all first began, and his perspective was that, weather conditions in this drainage are far different from, the Middle Fork American, the North Fork American up into the Yuba. And that's certainly true. So I think what we have here now with these sort of triangulated weather stations is we'll have more accurate information specific to Placerville to hopefully avoid what we experienced, which was a public safety power shutoff in Placerville when it wasn't windy.
Okay.
Right? I mean, that's the overall goal there.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Of course, yeah.
So in terms of hardening, Brandon, has the main trunk, because I know that's part of it, is if you have, you can have the segmentation, but if the main line coming in is at a in an area where it could be at risk, then it doesn't matter about segmentation because then the whole thing gets de-energized. Are we better from that perspective as well in terms of sort of the main line coming in from the station, I guess, off of Diamond Springs? Yeah.
As far as I know, the transmission feed into the Placerville substation is fully inspected. It's all operationally in place and intact, and there's no concerns there. Every day we're replacing poles. I know I had a pole replaced on my property, and it now has a fire retardant wrap on it. So everything we replace, we're doing it through the lens of wildfire hardening. That could be a deeper set, taller pole. It could be a wider cross arm that's made out of metal instead of wood, so that the conductors are further apart and don't risk contacting each other. Every day the system gets more hardened. I don't really think anything has really changed on the feed from Missouri Flat. It was really just an assessment of the risk given the vegetative conditions, but having the generation at Placerville sub sort of mitigates if we were to lose that transmission feed from Diamond Springs into the city of Placerville over here. So everything's inspected once, if not twice a year. We've been using drones. We've been, of course, climbing the structures. And all information I have show that everything is fully operational and in great shape. So,
okay, sounds good. Thank you. So with that, Brandon, if you don't mind sticking around for a little bit, we're going to go ahead and take some public comment.
Of course. Thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and open up this item to public comment.
Sue Rodman, resident of Placerville, longtime employee of the United States Forest Service. And in that employee, I saw PG&E lines and SMUD lines. And SMUD lines kept their lines clear like they were supposed to, and PG&E did not. So one of the things I would like to ask Brandon is, okay, in doing all this work, are you also fulfilling your responsibility to clean the vegetation off those lines so that you don't have trees falling on them? Because if the lines are properly cleared, the trees cannot reach the lines, and you don't have the problem. And that has been one of the things that has caused numerous wildfires. It's been causing wildfires since 2004 out of Salt Springs that caused the power fire. And PG&E was found liable and had to repay the Forest Service for all their suppression costs, as well as damages. So, and I'd like to know what has changed since then, because I see a lot of power poles that really should be replaced. They are leaning, they are not in good shape, and I hope that they are working very diligently, not only to underground, which is a lot safer option, but there are lines that you cannot underground that carry too much voltage. So I would like to know what is being done to make sure that that the lines are being protected and the vegetation is being cleaned off like it's supposed to be, because there are regulations that say you must keep the lines clear so that you can't have vegetation falling on them. And yet, fire after fire, what we hear is, well, a tree fell on the lines, a tree fell on the lines, a branch fell on the lines. Well, if those lines were properly inspected and properly maintained, you would not have that happening. So I want to know if PG&E is getting on the ball on that end of the thing too, because I'll celebrate them undergrounding, but celebrating 10,000 miles, they said it's going to take at least 10 years. I really don't want to see that much of California burn up in 10 years. We've seen enough of it burn up. So I would like to see wildfires caused by PG&E stop now.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Sue.
Jonathan Gainsborough. It's a great presentation, encouraging to hear the progress. I loved the words, "We're taking a stand that catastrophic wildfires shall stop." That's beautiful words, and hopefully the actions will be commensurate with that. Just a couple things. I didn't write down the total number of miles of line in the county, but I'd like, if you can give it, Brandon, the number of, Sue just mentioned 10,000, I missed that, if whatever the number is planned for undergrounding of the wires compared to the total number of our miles of line in the county. And then secondly or thirdly, my question was, and you may have answered it, but I'd like to specifically, if yes you did, you could repeat it. How far, when a enhanced power line safety setting kicks off, and I think you said it would be between 500 to 1,000 households. If that's accurate, could you repeat that? Or if not, could you correct what I heard mistakenly? And that's pretty much it, other than just the human factor has never, I have never gotten over when I heard a lady say that with the power shut off, she lost her entire month's groceries from one supposed PSPS. And the obtusity and the lack of response of PG&E to the human loss compassionately should be improved. PG&E should have some type of response to be responsible when the power is shut off. and I'm glad we're headed toward undergrounding. And God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. All right. Anybody else? Seeing no takers, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Brandon, I don't know if you want to make any final comments. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm always willing to engage at any level. So I just speak to the vegetation management piece. We're being very aggressive, more than we ever have as a company, to the point now where we're mandated to keep a 4-foot radial clearance. We're actively working to take that out to 12 to 15 feet, and where it's necessary to do so, we're going outside of our right-of-way and seeking consent from landowners to fully remove any tree with a potential fall risk into the overhead conductor. It's a major undertaking, and not every landowner is willing to allow us to do that because they value their trees, and we value their trees. There's over 120 million trees that pose a potential threat to overhead power lines across our system. It's certainly just not tenable from a societal standpoint or from a political standpoint, maybe not so much in El Dorado County, but in places like Napa or San Luis Obispo. I mean, removing that volume of trees would dramatically change the broader landscape of multiple communities across California. So we have to be judicious in how we apply the tools, but I can guarantee you we are being more aggressive than we ever have been on vegetation management as a company. One of the largest employers in El Dorado County is Mountain Enterprises, almost entirely funded by PG&E's vegetation management contracts. So they have a large operation operating out of Lotus. They have pretty much brought every available tree contractor in as a sub across the entire western U.S. We're spending more on vegetation management as a company in 1 year than we have in certain 5 or 10 year increments historically. So we're being very aggressive on that. In terms of the number of customers affected by an EPSS, it really is dependent on the distance between the protective devices. For example, the Shingle Springs circuit that goes down into Somerset, Mount Auckham, Fairplay, in that area, that's the longest circuit in the system at over 350 miles long. So you can imagine that's a very long circuit, and there's going to be sections of that where the sectionalizing devices are somewhat far away. So while the typical EPSS outage would be 500, 1,000 customers, it's not uncommon for there to periodically be an outage that affects up to 2,500 or more. The good news is we're having a really good track record of restoring those, completing patrol and restoring those within about 3 or 4 hours. So it's not like these are carrying overnight unless they happen at night, of course. But the impact is certainly far less than it would be for a PSPS. And then lastly, on the issue of, individuals losing food, we're certainly mindful of that. And as I illustrated, we do have incentive programs and rebate programs for things like generators, backup batteries. For individuals with medical needs, they can call 211 and access resources that we are directly funding, which includes the El Dorado Food Bank and others. So I would encourage folks to visit the web links provided. There's really a lot out there that I think we could use the city's help and the community's help with sharing, because we're certainly doing more as a company than we ever have, and I think it's going to continue on that upward trend. So,
all right, Brandon, thank you for coming back, for giving us some more information. We look forward to continue working with you and PG&E. Hopefully we'll get to a point where, it's hardly any PSPSs. I mean, last year was great. I think I don't know if there was one or none in the area. Of course, half the county was on fire as well, so that mitigated some of the fire problems that we had, but certainly it's always a frustration for our constituents, for our residents, as Patty said, is, just people understand when power goes out, when there's heavy rain, there's snow, like you live here, you kind of understand that. But when you don't feel the wind and it looks like a pretty calm day, it's frustrating. I think we've all experienced that. So we're looking forward to these enhanced technologies to mitigate these. And again, thank you for your time tonight. Okay, moving on. We'll move to item 6.3, and that is opening of the filing period for local candidates for the November 8th election. And Ms. O'Connell has this report for us.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Council. I wanted to announce that the candidate filing period for the Placerville City Council opens next week, Monday, July 18th, and will close nearly 4 weeks later on Friday, August 12th. The filing period will be extended by 5 days should a current incumbent on the City Council choose not to file for re-election during this period. 3 City Council seats with full 4-year terms of office will be voted upon at the November 8th, 2022 statewide general election. Registered voters residing within the city limits of Placerville and who are interested in running for City Council may contact the City Clerk to make an appointment to obtain candidacy forms required by the California Elections Code and the Fair Political Practices Commission. In addition to the required candidacy forms, all prospective candidates for the City Council must circulate nomination petitions within the filing period to obtain 20 valid signatures from registered city voters. Signatures and addresses will be verified by the El Dorado County Elections Department. Although there is no filing fee to run for City Council, candidates choosing to submit a candidate's statement to be printed in the voter's guide must pay $305 and an additional $401 if they wish to also print in Spanish. The City Council holds its regular meetings on the second and fourth Tuesday of every month, plus several public workshops throughout the year. Council members receive monetary compensation of $353 per month, enrollment in the CalPERS retirement system, plus full medical benefits. If anyone wishes to check their registration or register to vote, this can easily be done online at registertovote.ca.gov. For further information regarding this local election, I encourage the public to check out the city's website or contact the city clerk. This concludes my verbal report, and I am available to help answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Regina. Any questions? Comments? All right. Okay. We'll go ahead and open up for any public comments. All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and, I like that. Yes. Exercise your constitutional duties. No, thank you, Regina, and we will have those dates down, and we'll see if other candidates come forward. So thank you. All right, moving on to the consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one motion by roll call unless any member of the council wishes to remove an item for discussion. Yes.
I have one question. I have a question for Dave. Sorry I usually like to check in with you before I do this, but I'll try it here anyway. I just noticed that there's about $80,000 worth of software maintenance. One for 57, another one for 23 with Superion, and one for TraceNet. Is that part of? It's on the lower part of the
Check register.
check register.
Yeah, the Superion is our annual software maintenance for our financial software.
Okay.
So it's cloud-based, and it's our license and access to all the accounts payable, accounts receivable, utility billing, payroll, business license, all those modules, as well as your Click-to-Gov, which will be going live soon.
All right.
And then TrackNet is our police department software, and I'll let the chief give you filling on that.
It's our MSP for the current system.
Okay.
So we're with the approval of this budget, we're working with RIMS, but we still have to have the TrackNet system in place until that transfer is complete.
When do you? I want it. Yeah.
About a year.
Okay. Probably when this contract's up.
Yeah, that's what we're anticipating. We're trying to time it just right because I don't want to pay for two MSP on two systems.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I saw those on there. I was kind of curious what they're all for. So thank you.
All right. Any other items, questions, or items pulled? All right. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open up the consent calendar for public comment.
Good evening, Kathy Lishman. I seem to be a regular here lately, but I had a question about the minutes for when item 12.3 was approved. You added the part to maintain improved quality of life, item 8. And after a healthy discussion, the council asked Cleve if he had the information, which included Cleve's comments, beautification, maintenance of existing parks, trails, and business districts, community charm, character, make sure graffiti is removed, and meld it into a strategy. The actual motion that was made to approve something, it's not really clear. There was a healthy discussion, was item 8, maintain and improve quality of life as instructed for City Manager Cleve Morris. So I'm not sure what was instructed. Then the minutes say, approve item 8, maintain, improve quality of life that addresses the pursuit of city beautification and community charm. So my question is, are the minutes really accurate based on the motion and what the motion was implying to with Cleve's comments? Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. Any other? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment. No, Cleve, if you have any comment on that one.
Yeah, I know that was a very general item. You authorized me to go back and create that language for that. I suppose we could make that language more general, but I think it basically outlines what the council wanted me to try and do on that strategy to create that language. So.
Yeah, I mean.
I just have one more comment on that. The minutes are a summary of what had occurred. Right, and so to the extent that the meetings are recorded, that's the actual transcript of what had occurred. I know that there was a little bit more direction on there, and so again, I would rely on the video as opposed to a summary, which these minutes attempt to do.
Okay, thank you, Mona. Okay, any other questions?
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay.
I'd like to move the consent calendar.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Saragosa?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on to item 8, public comment. This portion of the meeting is reserved for persons wishing to address the council on any matter not on the agenda, and that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of City Council. Mayor reserves the right to limit the speaker's time to 3 minutes, and we will go ahead and we'll start with 8.2. Do we have any written communications tonight?
We did receive written communication, 2 items of written communication regarding item 12.4, I believe it was, yes. You were emailed both of those, and I believe you have a copy of a letter from George Turnbow
Yes.
regarding item 12.4.
All right.
And the other was from Marion Washburn.
Thank you.
There was also one from Mark Acuna. Also.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
It
right.
was an email.
On 12.4, that's correct.
You know what? That might have been sent directly to the council, so you may not have. I saw it. Maybe you didn't see that one, Regina. My apology for that. That you should.
I also believe the letter from Marion Washburn addressed another item, and I want to say it was 12.2. I don't have that in front of me, actually, but she addressed
did. It
2
was about
items
the
in her
goats and-
email.
yeah, right.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Regina. So we'll go ahead now and open up for oral communications. Anyone wishing to address City Council? Thank you, Kathy.
Kathy Lishman. I'm passionate about Placerville and about the desire to have a well-maintained city who puts his best foot forward. I was puzzled by a comment Councilmember Borelli made at the last City Council meeting about the work of community pride, something about how things used to be beautiful. When I helped create Community Pride in 1990, junipers were the plant of choice. We removed many junipers, including at the Bell Tower and Old City Hall, and created gardens in those areas. When we first landscaped the Bell Tower, there was no water to the site, so we watered by hand. We even held a fundraiser once to have new railings made for the Bell Tower. We created a garden at the Ivy House parking lot, including planting the mature cork oak tree that's there today. We built planters and landscaped the Fox lot and created gardens at Goldbug Park, in addition to other sites as well. Those areas would not look like they do today if it weren't for community pride. Over the years, we've had plants stolen, had 3 gardens removed by the Caltrans Highway 50 Ops project, and received mitigation funds for those. And we've had water permanently shut off at 2 other sites. We landscaped the area between Tortilla Flats and the Cosmic Cafe. I know those aren't the right names. And created murals along the wall. We commissioned the Snowshoe Thompson mural at Sacramento Street and Main Street and created murals in the old City Hall parking lot. This last week, we improved the garden at the El Dorado County Chamber right across the street. You should check it out on your way home. While Community Pride has received some funding from the city, over the years we have raised thousands of dollars with fundraisers, garden tours, donations, grants, mitigation funds, and have put in thousands of hours of volunteer time. The Vietnam Memorial Monument, I'm very emotional about this, and the beautiful monument garden would never have been created if it weren't for Community Pride. In fact, in spite of the fact that it took us so many years to raise the funds. With the help of the El Dorado High School shop class and the blacksmith at Goldbug Park, we're hoping in the fall to have a replica of a Studebaker wheelbarrow and benches for the monument garden. So you see, Community Pride volunteers have never wavered from our mission to improve the grace and charm of Placerville, nor have we ever let challenges discourage us. There is so much more to share about the work and the value of Community Pride and its volunteers, and I would like very much to make a presentation at a future council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay. Any other? There we go.
Jonathan Gainsborough, good evening, Mayor and Council. I was walking in and carrying a pillow, said pillow there, and one of our group here this evening that was walking in said, "You're bringing that for the chair, are you?" And I said, "Exactamundo." Yes. None of us is getting younger, but praise the Lord, hopefully we're all getting wiser and better and more compassionate. I'm going to combine a couple things. I'm not going to stay for the, just to commend Councilwoman Taylor and I guess it's Mayor Saragosa for the 2x2 that's continuing. That's commendable. I'm glad to see it. It's very important to never have that stop. It was only 6 or 9 months ago that I heard from the dais a long overdue confession and a true statement regarding the crisis, not of COVID, not the crisis of the Caldor fire, but the county, citywide, and nationwide crisis of the homeless. And the statement was, we realize that we're 10 or 15 years behind on this issue. I am glad. I don't think we're that far behind right now. We're catching up. I don't think we ever want to be behind again. When I was told about the father who came to the death of one of the men that died in the creek up on Upper Broadway, and he would set up a little candles and a couple stones to commemorate the death of his son. The son's name wasn't even put in the paper, I think. So I just want to commend us for the progress. The front page of California's oldest newspaper within the last 2 weeks had a front page article saying pre-construction work has begun on the Perks Court Navigation Center shelter for the homeless. Let's move ahead with it, and let's not let the fire fade out from lack of attention. Finally, I want to just commend the concept of Deputy Sheriff Brian Ishmael post office being considered as a valid and, I believe, memorial, very appropriate name for our post office. I'm watching the clock. It's a miracle. A preacher's going to stop early. God bless you all. Keep up the good work. 4 seconds to go. God bless.
Thank you, Jonathan. Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Councilmember Thomas.
I'd like to break ranks a little bit and comment on the community pride. It is, I know Patty's heart, and I know what she has said on many, many occasions, and how much she has supported and encouraged community pride over the years. And I know that those words, while it may have been said, were not the intention. And I do know that you I know this for a fact. And while that did bring up the issue of community pride, I really appreciated the reminder of over the years of all the things that community pride has done. And they have been an amazing asset to our community. They have beautified our community in so many ways that we would not have had without the efforts of just a few people. Sometimes bigger crowd, sometimes smaller crowd, but so a few people that really took time to invest in our community. And so thanks for the reminder, and also acknowledge that I know that that's not Patty's heart. I know that those words may have come out in some form, but I do know that that was not her intention. So.
No, it certainly wasn't. And I was going to say, I remember when Community Pride started. My husband was on the council then. I was at that fundraiser, flipping the hamburgers to try to raise money for Community Pride. I've always been an ardent supporter, and I don't know, I haven't had time to go back and listen to the minutes to hear exactly what Mrs. Lichman sent me an email telling me the same thing, and for the life of me, I would have never said anything critical of Community Pride, or I think it had something to do with getting more interest from, and I think I used it as a Community Pride has done this, and when you first started, how we had gardens on, it seemed like every other business. But anyway, thank you for your support. I certainly would never condemn Community Pride. They're wonderful. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, council members. Okay. We did not have any items pulled from the consent calendar, no ordinance tonight or public hearings. So we will move to item 12, to discussion and action items, and item 12.1, and that's to review and approve community grant program guidelines and application, and authorize staff to release the application to solicit responses. And Mr. Morris has this for us tonight.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. At your previous meeting, when we adopted the budget, the council also approved an amount of $5,000. I apologize. In one of the forms, it says $7,500. That was a carryover from our last grant, and I corrected that. But the council did approve $5,000 for a community grant program. Previously, you had this program. It's been in, I believe, in the 14-15 fiscal year that we had it. We developed the program at that time. Since then, funding did not allow us to continue with that, but we do have that now. So what I've presented to you tonight is basically the same program that we did back in 2014-15. We have the application already in place, the process, et cetera. And it also outlines the process for approval of those grants, or a review and approval of those. You'll note that on there it says that the mayor will appoint a two-person committee to review those. If you would like to do that this evening, I believe you could also do that as part of this process, to appoint who is going to be part of that committee to review and approve those grants. We welcome any other changes to the guidelines that are set up in here, or to the application form. Again, this is what was used before. The other thing that we haven't put in here yet, but we can discuss if you'd like to apply a due date for these, we can add that to that tonight also. Happy to answer any questions you might have on this.
All right. Thank you, Cleve. Any questions? Or comments?
Yeah, well, I think we probably should. What I'm thinking of is, how much would we provide? You just don't know how many applicants you're going to get in, and the values of those. And it's going to be a selection process, and there won't be any limits on how much we give. I mean, we could decide that one is really the best and they're going to do the most, and And so we're going to give to them, where we decide that 15 of them all deserve something, so we're going to spread it out a little bit to everybody. I mean, this is kind of what I'm noodling around in my head as we're looking at this, and if we're just going to leave that wide open, I'm okay with that. I just wanted to kind of just have that conversation real
Should we
quick.
leave that
Sure.
up to the committee?
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly delegate that to the two-member committee, but if we have any thoughts tonight, I mean, on one hand, I mean, my first inclination is not to have like 15, where only people are getting a couple of $100, because it just seems like
It just
doesn't
doesn't do much, right.
Doesn't do much, yeah. But I'm also, if that's what the committee thought was the best way to do it, and they had a good reason, I'd probably go
Should we
along.
consider setting a number?
Well, first I'd like to hear what the public thinks about that, but I kind of thought, 1,000. I thought we kind of discussed that. Maybe I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Yeah,
But it's not in this,
but
so that was worth talking about.
how much enough is to be impactful?
Right.
So I kind of had that thought of doing 5 grants of $1,000 each, but I'm just throwing out a conversation starter.
Right.
Yep.
And that's kind of where my mind was, but it's.
And
but
you're
then I
right,
thought,
we might get 15.
Yeah, we might get 15. We might get.
So maybe we should.
Yeah, you
maybe
just don't know.
We should set a limit. Can we?
In
do
terms
that
of the
tonight?
dollars? Sure.
Yeah, and
You
a
can answer
date
these guidelines.
potentially as well. And then we can also talk about if we want to appoint a subcommittee tonight as well. But with that, if there's no other questions right now, we'll go ahead and open up for public comment.
Good evening again, Kathy Lishman. I was surprised to see the application come back this time with the wording of Strategy 8 all in one lump sum. It makes it look like all of the beautification is going out to grants. What Friends of Seniors does for our grants every year, we say we will contribute up to a total of, and you would say up to a total of $5,000, and people could apply for what they want to apply for, because they don't have to apply for $1,000. There could be something that they want or need that is less than that. So I think you may want to take the time to figure out the best way to do it. Another thing that I wanted to say about the Strategy 8 is programs and projects. What about the other items that were on the list about graffiti, about things that are within the city's purview, maintenance of existing parks and trails? It's more than just the grants to other nonprofits. It's what can the city do to improve the beautification of the town. I think it's really unclear, too, now about who is responsible for what, like the Public Works Department, the Community Services Department, and Caltrans. There are all kinds of weeds all around town, and whose weeds are they? And who is supposed to take care of that? So my feeling about having $5,000 go outside of the city when there's so many needs that the city has. But I think that you need to really think about how you want to do that grant program. And also perhaps someone from Community Pride could be on the committee also.
Thank you, Kathy. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close public comment and bring it back to council. So where would we like to start here? I do like the idea. I thought, Kathy, it was a good idea to say up to, depending on X dollars, because it's true. You could have someone that needs $250 for a tire or whatever it might be, and they might not need a whole $1,000, but they may have. We can always come back and reallocate dollars. So I do like that idea, but we still could put a not to exceed number.
A tire.
A tire, yeah. You need a new tire on a vehicle. I don't know.
That hasn't got much to do with beautification.
You just, you gotta drive somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. It's a great foundation. I think, I don't think we need to, I think you did this before, and it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's not broke, I don't want to fix it too much. If there's something that I think we need to add just to fit what we're doing now,
Yeah, I think we need to work on the parameters so that it makes it easy enough to move the process along. It occurs to me, I like the idea of community pride, but then that would exclude community pride from submitting in an application. How do you, same thing we'll have as council members, depending on the application, who's working with a nonprofit that will have a conflict of interest. So it's
right.
going to be an interesting, maybe we should see what applications we get before we appoint the committee.
Well, and I don't know that we need to exclude a particular individual because they work with it.
I agree.
Work with a nonprofit. They don't have a financial interest, and
Right.
But if you put in an application, you have a financial interest in your nonprofit getting that grant.
Just because you donate, I mean, it's council members, and I'm sure all of us, we all donate to a lot of organizations out there, so that would preclude us from even being on the committee.
No, but
I'm not, maybe I'm not understanding what you're saying.
So if I am on the board of a nonprofit, which I'm not, and I don't know, is anybody here on the board of a nonprofit?
No.
What would be the criteria that would exclude us?
Right, provided that you are on the board of a nonprofit that's a 501c3 and you are not being compensated, although a reimbursement is allowed, you are deemed to have a non-interest in the contract and the grant before you, so you would be able to participate. You do not have a Government Code Section 1090 conflict, and you do not have a financial interest in the contract pursuant to the Political Reform Act. Sometimes I have council members who elect to recuse themselves from that decision making if they were actively involved as part of their nonprofit before the application came before the council.
Understood. Thank you.
All right.
Okay. So in order, I do want to make this as seamless as possible so that, both staff, it's the least amount of time for a small project that we have here. And knowing that it's just probably a one-time deal because we have these ARPA funds right now, and, if the recession kicks in, it's unlikely that this will happen again.
Every 7 years.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So far.
So I guess maybe one first question: do you want to limit to a maximum amount, or could somebody apply for the full 5,000?
I kind of like the maximum of $1,000. You get a chance to do more community projects that way, but I'm just.
Sometimes, what goes through my mind, sometimes $1,000 isn't what it used to be, unfortunately, with nonprofits. What are your thoughts?
I'm kind of going along with what Jackie just said. That,
Yeah.
Spread it out a little bit.
Spread the love?
Well, we get it one time. That would give us at least 5 recipients.
All right, I'm down with that.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. So we could add a
Your request
not to exceed
$1,000 per request.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in 501s, it has to be a 501c3. Is that?
That's the discretion of the council.
Yeah, it's not written in here. It does say to assist nonprofit organizations, so it could be other than a 501c3.
Right, that's completely within your
but
discretion.
that's up to you. If you want to just leave it a nonprofit, then any.
That's what
any
I'd
of those
like
would.
to just leave it.
Yeah, it gives more flexibility.
Right.
Yeah.
Politically active. It gets to
They
be.
still have to show that it's going to benefit the community.
Right.
Right.
So, yeah.
So how should we establish a due date?
Yeah, I think we should.
What's within your scope of reasonable?
I would put it out there a couple of months, just to give us time to get the information out and let people know that it's available and get it back. So maybe, where are we?
September.
Maybe mid to end of September, something like that. Is that okay? Or
Right. So maybe mid-September.
September 15th.
September 15th? That work for everybody?
Sure, I always
Can
like
I-
to look
can
at
I
a
make sure
calendar and
that's
make
not
sure
a
it's not
Sunday?
like Sunday or something.
That's true. Yeah, it could be.
What is
If,
it?
if,
First Monday after.
yeah, if it's a weekend, then
Thursday's fine.
the Monday thereafter.
I would say that's 15th is a Thursday. That
Thursday.
works good
That
for
works.
us.
Okay,
Yeah, actually.
then we'll do that. So we'll add in September 15th due date, or due by. And then, colleagues, how about the ad hoc committee for this? Do you want to wait, or would you like to move ahead tonight with appointing an ad hoc committee?
So about that, if the council votes to create an ad hoc committee, it's no longer an ad hoc committee, it's a standing committee that's subject to the Brown Act. If the mayor, or in your case, the vice mayor right now, unilaterally makes that decision, the ad hoc committee is allowed to meet absent the noticing and the agenda.
So unilaterally means we don't have input.
Correct.
Okay, so
Okay.
make some executive decisions, Vice Mayor.
All right.
You can do that now, you just don't get any input on it.
All right. All right. So, all right. I will do that then. So, I'm going to make 2 appointments to this, and I'm going to appoint Councilmember No and Councilmember Borelli.
Thank you.
Awesome.
You do have the option if either one of you
Yeah, if
want
you don't want
to
to do it.
decline that.
You could do it with somebody else.
You can have that
Yeah, you don't have to. Certainly not within your. Yeah, certainly you don't have
Don't
to.
tell them that. They should know that. You don't need to tell.
Okay. So we're good?
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well done.
So we still need to. Do we need to take any other vote on this? We still have to take a vote, right? To
Yeah, I would make
codify
a motion
everything else.
to review and approve the program as amended, basically.
All right.
I would move that we approve the program 12.1 as amended, with the amendment being not to exceed $1,000 on each individual grant.
And to keep the applicants as nonprofits, but for a local benefit, the due date being Thursday, September 15th. That's it.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All right. We have a first and a second. No further comments. Roll call, please.
Councilmember No.
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli.
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza.
Aye. All right. Thank you, everybody. We will move on to item 12.2, and that's adopt a resolution approving a contract with Capra Environmental Services for goat grazing on 3 compatible city parcels totaling 13.5 acres for a total cost of $10,708.50. And Mr. Zeller has this report for us.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So the purposes for these projects is, of course, to reduce the amount of fire-prone vegetation within the city's right-of-way. And the 3 locations covered under this staff report request are Duffy Park, Ray Lawyer Drive, and the Water Reclamation Facility. And it also falls under our strategic plan strategy number 3 under health, public safety, wildfire protection, and disaster preparedness. The Community Services Department applied for a grant in 2021. It was a state grant for fire reduction. The grant was not successful, and so the City Council, just for review, approved the use of ARPA funding to cover the cost of the goat grazing and the tree service work for the acreage that was originally cited in the grant, and that total was $619,900. And this cost was divided up into the just recently passed fiscal year at $409,950, and the balance of $209,950 was slated for the 8 remaining properties for this current fiscal year, 22-23. So in the recently passed fiscal year, we prioritized 3 city parcels, and those were bid and awarded, and those were Goldbug Park, Lower Main Street slope under the El Dorado Trail, and Lions Park. And the quotes for the goat services have been awarded for those parcels and are scheduled for July 15th. Originally it was supposed to be yesterday, but there was a little bit of a setback. But the good news is that the goats will be here Friday at both Goldbug and at Lions Park. They're looking at bringing more than they expected, and so we're going to be able to start in 2 different locations. So for this staff report, of the 8 remaining city parcels, after those 3 prioritized, another 3 of those are compatible with goat grazing. The other 5 are just too small or too weirdly shaped to get the goats out, and those will be just dealt with the tree service companies. But the properties that were compatible were the 8 acres at the water reclamation facility, about 3.5 acres at the intersection of Ray Lawyer Drive and Fair Lane, which the city owns, and another 2 acres of wooded hillside at Duffy Park. It's the hillside that you see when you're standing on Pleasant Street looking south. And so that's a total of another 13.54 acres. And so we did receive quotes from 3 goat grazing companies. And the lowest responsible quote we had was from Capra Environmental, who was the awarded one for the company for the first phase, and their total was $10,708.50. So the options that the City Council has are to adopt the resolution as presented, adopt with revisions, or direct staff to take other actions. It's worth noting that the environmental perspective of this project is that it is categorically exempt under Class 4, which is considered minor alterations to land. The city's determined that the employment of goats to graze within confined areas to reduce vegetation undergrowth for reduction of fire fuels will have no significant impact on the environment. The city has concluded that no significant environmental impact would occur to aesthetics, agriculture, and forest land or timberland air quality, biological resources, cultural resources, energy, geology and soils, greenhouse gas emissions, hazardous materials, hydrology and water quality, land use planning, mineral resources, noise, population, and you guys can read the rest. No healthy, mature scenic trees will be removed, and work would not take place within any sensitive habitat, including wetlands or waterways. Implementation of the goat grazing program will reduce fire fuels, reducing potential wildfire hazards. And so there are no exceptions listed under Section 15300.2. And so looking at the budget, we've already had the 2 contracts in Phase 1 that were awarded to Capra. And we have the 3rd proposed contract, and that, along with the tree service contract that was awarded prior, comes to a total of $218,216. And as you can see, that that total project encumbrances, including the proposed amount on the staff report today, is well within the $409,950 project budget. So I'm looking for action to adopt the resolution and to award the contract to Capra Environmental for the amount of $10,708.50, and I can take any questions.
Thank you, Terry. Any questions?
Go goats.
Exactly. I know. I was just saying we need some kind of like goat ribbon cutting.
I was just going to say, are
Goat
we going
cutting.
to have some kind of a, I don't know, a breeding committee or something?
Patty, I think you have to be there.
I think I have to.
I'll be there, Patty. I'll welcome them. I think there's a lot of people that are going to be interested in seeing the goats, too.
We'll go ahead and open it up for public comment.
Sue Rodman, Placerville Fire Safe Council member and resident of Placerville. And I second Jackie's thing, go goats. I am really glad to see the city this year getting busy and doing something about fuel reduction in our city. It's a long time coming and it's much needed, and goats are great.
Thank you, Sue. Any other public comments? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the council.
I make a motion, we adopt the resolution as presented.
A second?
All right, we have a first and a second. Seeing no further comments, roll call, please.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza?
Aye. All right, thank you, Terry. I think I do have to go out there to see the
Oh, absolutely.
the first goats unloaded.
Yeah, I think we're expecting them mid-morning, probably just before noon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item 12.3, and that's adopt a resolution. Number one, receive and file an update on the U.S. 50 quarter action Trip to Green pilot project. And then two, authorize the city manager or his designee to award the informal contract for traffic management and implementation for said project, not to exceed $200,000. And Ms. Neves has this for us this evening. Thank you, Rebecca.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. The Trip to Green project is not a new topic of discussion for any of us. We have certainly had this item come before us on various occasions and methods, but this item is certainly before you tonight as a milestone task and an opportunity also to provide an update to the community. After a year delay following the sudden and long-term impacts from the Caldor fire, the intended Trip to Green pilot project was postponed that was planned to be implemented last year. Of course, Trip to Green has been implemented once on October 17th when the evacuation orders came in last year for the Caldor fire. Camino and Pollock Pines were evacuated and the lights were flipped to green to support the evacuation efforts. What started as a pilot project to improve Placerville's weekend quality of life also proved its additional value as a tool for wildfire protection and disaster preparedness. So what is Trip to Green? For 3 weekends this fall, the 3 traffic signals at Canal Street, Spring Street, Highway 49, and Bedford Avenue on US 50 will be flipped to green in the east-west direction to improve the flow of traffic on 50, thus reducing detoured highway traffic onto local roads, which consequentially causes significant gridlock on our local roads like Broadway, Main Street, Airport Road, Clay Street, Pacific Street, and the list goes on. Local businesses were finding that pass-through traffic is not stopping to eat, shop, and enjoy Placerville because of the significant delays on US 50 to get to and through Placerville. The City of Placerville has partnered with El Dorado County Transportation Commission and Caltrans District 3 to coordinate and develop bid documents, with the city serving as the lead agency for the implementation of the traffic management contract. This will allow the signals to be in the green phase and implemented through this contract. The 3 scheduled weekends for Trip to Green are the first 3 weekends of August, September, and October from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. The exact dates and information is listed in staff's report. Traffic control will be implemented each day, barring any unforeseen conditions such as a large fire like what we experienced in 2021. The engineer's estimate for this contract is between $150,000 to $180,000 and falls under competitive informal bid process per Public Contract Code Section 22034. This project was funded through the CRISA program and is administered under the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program for transportation projects through that funding mechanism. Because of the urgent timing of this project, Public Contract Code 22034C also allows the governing body to delegate contract award to an appropriate staff representative. That's the second request in this evening's agenda item, is to authorize the city manager or his designee to award the informal contract for the traffic management and implementation of the said project, in accordance with that section of the Public Contract Code. In staff's report, we were able to provide some additional material related to some of the detours. You'll notice that we have 3 maps that were attachments to staff's reports. We also included the media graphic that will be going out. There has already been substantial efforts for public outreach for this project, and you will continue to see that ramp up in the next couple of weeks, including utility mailers that went out this month. Thank you, Finance Department. And also door hangers on residents, and specifically areas and locations and neighborhoods that may not have or be interested in regular internet access. Social media campaign, as well as flyers posted on businesses on Broadway, Main Street, and portions of Placerville Drive. So we're going to be canvassing the city quite a bit with this effort. We have also been working with Mayor Taylor to help be the face of the program for this process. But, again, this is not a new project discussion, and I can honestly say I think everybody's contributed on some level, and just really appreciate all the efforts that not only our council and our staff have put towards this, but also towards the Transportation Commission, the commissioners themselves, and Caltrans District 3 staff. That concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Rebecca. Any questions, comments? Yes.
I have comments.
Councilmember Thomas.
This was a thorn in my side when I first started on city council, and it's pretty much, I'm going to say this, I continue to say it, we take it in the chin as a city. Once again, we're taking it in the chin as a city, and this is the least impactful, hopefully best opportunity for us to evaluate how to mitigate the impact of the unmitigated success of Apple Hill and things up the freeway that impact this community. And it takes the resources and time and energy of all of our support people, whether it's fire, police, or our citizens, and it takes away our ability to move around our town during challenging weekends, and it's even spilling over into the weeks now during the high impact traffic times. It's disrupting our ability to have safe and quiet neighborhoods. It is interrupting our quality of life, and it stinks. And this is unfortunately the best so far that we can come up with in terms of a solution. I have worked quite a bit with Transportation Commission. It kind of started off there, giving them, started off with them with a lot of conversations, then it went to Caltrans, then it came back to the city, and all the time Rebecca was there, kind of in the background, keeping, what were you doing? Trying to work peacefully to find solutions while I was kind of rattling the sabers a little bit. And I think between Caltrans, El Dorado Transportation Commission, and our city staff, they have worked very cooperatively once we got Caltrans involved, because they were pretty much hands off at one point, and I think they've decided to jump in and help support this project. It really helped out quite a bit there. I don't like this, but I don't like the alternative more. And so I think they've come up with an idea of how this might have a long-term opportunity to allow our community to have a little more peace during these busy weekends. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Councilmember Borelli.
Well, I was going to say, in my defense, I really brought this up many years ago and really tried to get something done. And you're right, Caltrans would not talk to us. And so thank goodness, and I think Rebecca and, we've got some new players that really pushed it through. And I am just so happy. But what you just said, we take it, in the chin. And again, we're going to our citizens, our community is going to suffer only inconvenience, and people get used to doing things, and it's like, I can't turn there, I can't do. It's just something we're going to have to live with, and for a while, and just like you say, consider the alternative, of not even being able to get in our town and having our neighborhoods invaded, which we were experiencing a lot. So I think it's wonderful what the plans that have been drawn up, and this certainly was monumental. Yeah. And I appreciate all the work that's been done. So
One of the nice things about this is that it's not the end.
No.
But it's the beginning of the creative process to the solution.
For something else.
For something else.
Right.
Whether it's a, elevated freeway, which I am not a fan of.
But transportation is looking into, right, several
I think as
possibilities.
we've moved through this, transportation and Rebecca especially has been exploring all sorts of different ways to do this where it's not
right.
impacting with a massive freeway through our town, which ultimately is the worst case scenario to move people through for our community.
Right.
But it would be the most efficient. Not efficiency.
And with respect to our businesses, too.
Yeah.
We don't want to, lock it up, that people are going to get disgusted and not want to come in. And, so there's so many things that factor into this that we have to consider.
A lot of variables.
Yep, no, for sure. And that's kind of the way I felt about it, too, is necessary evil is the term that comes into my mind when I think about this. Because, I know I've driven myself just to the other end of town during high season just to see how long it would take me to get to back to the other side, and it's like 25 minutes, which is a long time to go. Not very far. So it's something that impacts all of our businesses. All of us as residents every day, and the same thing. We're going to have to take different routes to get to the other side of town, and I worry about that too. I worry that residents are going to be like, I'm just going to stay home. I'm not going to go downtown, or I'm not going to go shop because I don't want to have to deal with it. So there's,
they're doing that already.
But they're doing that already. I know. I don't want to go to the other side of town on a Sunday. Yeah, this is true. So I'm really looking forward to see, how this plays out. I did want to ask Chief Cordero, Chief Wren, if they had any comments from a public safety perspective that they wanted to add. You don't have to if you don't have anything, but just wanted to see if you had any other comments.
I would just like to publicly give kudos to Rebecca for heading this up. As we saw during the Caldor fire, having that plan in place, it wasn't for the Caldor, it was for the Trip to Green, but it was a game changer for the events that took place, what we needed to do. Thank you.
Are you worried?
Obviously, the backups that occur on Highway 50 is already previously mentioned, the time delays.
Right.
It is an extreme challenge for personnel because there's the center divider there. So when engines that are trying to get east or westbound, if they get plugged up in that traffic, there's literally nowhere to go because the public, while they try to get out of the way to get fire engines through there, there's just a lot of places there's not room, and they shut off their lights and have to sit there with the rest of them.
So you think this is really going to help solve that a little bit better? By at least having the cars moving?
From a public safety and evacuation standpoint, I think we saw the success during the Caldor when they activated the Trip to Green and were able to move those residents coordinated through town. For that aspect, I think it was very beneficial. Yes.
I will add, on 50 it worked great. It cleared up traffic. We initially had been out there directing traffic with personnel, and it was just an absolute nightmare. So it cleared up 50. Some of the issues that we did see were on the surface streets, because when you detour traffic, when Mr. and Mrs. Smith get in their car and they want to go from A to B, and there's something in between that interferes with that, they have a tendency to lose some patience. But as it stayed in place longer and people became more familiar with it, we saw those issues decrease. So, by the end of it, before it was torn down, I was almost thinking, just leave it up. It seems to work. So, but yeah, initially we're going to see some issues. We always do when we do traffic management activities. But as it progresses and it becomes the norm, it gets a little easier. So,
Chief, are our costs covered under this grant to do this in terms of our officers that are going to be out? I would assume this may be overtime. I don't know.
We do have funding available for PD to directly charge to it.
Okay, great. Good to know.
Yep. We take care of our own, make sure we pay it first.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions, comments? We'll go ahead and open it up for public comment.
Kathy Lishman, it looks like you will get comments from two people. I think it's an interesting concept, and it'll be different than with the Caldor fire as far as it works. Advertising in the Bay Area and Sacramento, is that going to encourage more people to come up and go to Tahoe and Apple Hill just because they think it's or does it make it easier for them to be able to plan ahead? I do have a request about Coleman Street. Right now, there's a sign that says you cannot turn onto Coleman Street on Saturdays and Sundays between noon and 6 p.m., I think. Is it possible to cover up those signs during these weekends that we're going to be doing this? And people will have a hard time getting used to it because it's one weekend and then it's 3 normal weekends, and it's one weekend and 3 normal weekends. And as it goes on, I suppose there's not going to be any changes because it's advertised. What if they find out that on certain days or certain times that it's not really necessary to have the whole town closed off? But I guess this is an experiment, and that will, the success of the project will be interesting. Back when Caltrans was presenting alternatives for Highway 50, there were up to 12 or 13 different alternatives, and one of them was an elevated freeway. And we convinced Caltrans to make a model of it. And I have a poster that was made by Carol Mathis that was a cartoon picture of an elevated freeway, and it says, "The monster that ate Placerville." So good job on this, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Thank you, Kathy.
About Sue Rodman, Placerville resident, and been here long enough that I remember when Caltrans did come through and suggest an elevated freeway. And I actually thought it was a good idea. Looking forward to seeing this. And one of the reasons I thought it was a good idea is I went up to Tahoe to the Renaissance Fair, and everybody's asking, "Where are you from? Where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Placerville." They said, "Where's Placerville?" I said, "Did you come up Highway 50? "Oh, yeah." "Did you see the three stoplights?" "Oh, yeah, the 3 fatal stoplights." That's Placerville. And that was their impression of Placerville, the 3 fatal stoplights that impinged everybody's progress. So I actually have seen elevated freeways. There's one in Sacramento, and they put parking underneath of it, and then you have Old Sacramento right next to it. And I thought that would be a reasonable alternative for Placerville besides the 6-lane parking lot that we get in busy times on Highway 50. And I think if people are going to come off to get to Placerville, they get off the freeway and come to Placerville. People still go to Sutter Creek. There's the whole Highway 49 completely bypasses Sutter Creek and several of the other little towns right there. But people still get off and go to Sutter Creek. And I think people would still come to Placerville. So, yeah, I think the monster that ate Placerville is right out there. It is Highway 50. And we're watching it eat Placerville now. And I think the trip to Green may teach us quite a bit. And I certainly think it's a better alternative than just waiting for everybody to clog up on 56 lanes wide. You got 3 lanes going up, 3 lanes coming back, and they're all at dead stop sometimes. Well, at that point in time, I'm not going up Highway 50. I am going to stay home, or I'm going to take 49 and go somewhere else. But I'm not going to fight the traffic to come into Placerville. Not when it's clogged up like that. It's a mess. And we decided that that's what we wanted. A lot of it was what I heard was the the merchants in Placerville said no, they did not want to see it go elevated. At one time, I believe they had right-of-way to do a bypass like they've done for Sutter Creek. And Sutter Creek is still a nice little town. You can get around in it on the weekend. You can go shop at the little shops and have a lot of fun. And Placerville now, on the weekends, is just a clogged mess. So yeah, I think Trip to Green, let's try it. It did work during the Caldor fire and worked well. And I think I would agree with our police chief. Maybe we just do it on a permanent basis. Maybe that may be the best solution we can get for Highway 50. But certainly this will teach us how well it works on a normal situation where you're not doing a fire evacuation. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, we'll go ahead and close public comment. Bring it back.
I'm just looking forward to seeing how it works because, like a lot of people, I don't leave my house on certain weekends in Apple Hill at the end of summer because you might be able to get one way, but then you can't get the other way. And it'll be interesting to see how that works or doesn't work for our community and all the pluses and minuses we figure out.
Yep. I'd like to acknowledge Patty's efforts because there, you know,
I was
no, it is true because when I came on,
people have been wondering why haven't we done anything?
Right.
Why haven't we? And that's the reason. And I'm also, while we're talking, I'm going to address what Sue said. There's so much. Every instant that she brought up, I mean, we go way back in history. It's all involving politics and the people that were there. And have been everything you mentioned, plans to do, and one really highly influential group has knocked it down. That's why we're still where we are. I grew up here. I saw it all happen. And it was unfortunate. You know, nobody has a crystal ball, but that's exactly what happened, you know, and why there were no really good solutions.
Yeah, I was involved in this in the 90s.
You know
in the 90s,
I
was involved in the 90s, and it's been, and there's been a lot of work done on it, and a lot of stuff put on the shelf, and put to rest, and I think we just recently kind of
and I'm so glad that
brought it back up. So it's been good. And I want to once again thank the staff because you guys have you've done a lion's share. You've been in there the whole time behind the scenes making that stuff happen.
Absolutely.
Rebecca, did you have any other comments you wanted to make on this?
I do, if I could, just for a moment. So a couple of questions that were brought up. Will the advertising in the Bay Area and Sacramento encourage more people? We've actually had that discussion internally when we were talking about the public outreach. We're like, wait a minute, is Apple Hill prepared for this? How many apples do they actually have on stock, right? So it kind of comes down to the messaging of it, you know. So we've been very careful in how we've worded our message, trying to avoid the additional encouragement, but also to let them know that, this is happening. If it's something you're interested in, fine. If not, stay away, if whatever your comfort level is. As far as covering up the signs on Coleman, the only thing I'm cautious about, and actually Chief Wren hit the nail on the head in his description of how things calmed down after a duration during the evacuation. With traffic management, you want to hit a level of consistency. I actually think covering up the sign on Coleman could introduce an element of inconsistency. I would just leave that particular sign alone during the fall season, is just my perspective and experience on traffic management. The other thing, too, is selecting certain days and certain times of implementing the Trip to Green. So when we went through and selected the dates and the times, we actually looked at the traffic peak volumes on US 50 over the duration of several years and several seasons. And we selected 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on those weekend individual dates as a true reflection of where we actually see peak traffic. The other thing, too, is that should traffic drop and, is it really necessary? There's not really a whole lot of cars going through. Can we pull the traffic control? Yeah. We've actually got it in the contract to where we can start pulling traffic control as early as 6 p.m. So to reopen our town for resuming normal function. And, one thing about implementing the local road detours, as we all have kind of learned as we've done our homework on being prepared for any kind of emergency, is knowing different ways to get in and out of your house. Take this, as it always ends up being an opportunity, what is it? Necessity is the birthplace for creativity. This has been a blessing in disguise when it came through with the Caldor fire and everything else, because, Caltrans, to their credit, they had suggested a lot of alternatives, starting as I believe the model that was discussed was developed in 1989, and it currently is in the vestibule of District 3 office in Marysville, and it came to Placerville when we did our public meetings. At that time, our community just wasn't ready for that solution. And, to Caltrans's credit, they won't force something on a community that isn't supported. And so they kind of left us alone for a little while and said, just let us know, you call us. So we did. And from that, we came up with the Trip to Green concept, which I have to say, to give credit where credit is due to District 3. They, Caltrans, they aren't in the business of doing a whole bunch of pilot projects. They are in the business of traffic safety and operations for the state. This is let's take it out for a test spin and see how this does. To their credit, they were open-minded to even discuss the project, although hesitant. And then when we were able to successfully implement it during the evacuation, they came around. And they're like, you know what? Yeah, let's do this. We feel pretty good about it. Everything went well, and let's see what we can do. The alternatives moving forward, we are looking at an elevated freeway, although I must warn everybody here, the sticker shock value of a 1989 price versus a 2022 price tag is quite a bit different. A lot of zeros, and all I can say is I hope we have the cash first before we go out to construction for that, if it were to ever come to fruition. And another alternative is actually something that we had talked about was implementing Trip to Green on a pseudo-permanent basis. And there are some infrastructure components that we can do, low-cost infrastructure components compared to an elevated freeway, that we could potentially look at a project that does extenuations of Trip to Green. And what ends up happening is you start habit training your community, and you start habit training the visitors to Apple Hill. And so that's kind of the big points I had. And then if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer them, but got to find the blessings in it too.
Thank you.
Sure.
Councilmember Thomas.
Have you had any feedback from the Purple Box yet?
From the who?
Do you have a Purple Box out, or is it purple, or is it the air quality box?
Oh, purple air monitors.
There you go.
So we haven't done that yet. We ran out of resources in June to get that out and up.
Okay.
We are still looking at that as an option. The challenge with the air quality monitoring, although I still think it's value because it measures particulate matter 2.5, which is essential for evaluating smoke and air particulates and pollutants during forest fires and things like that. When you are going after a grant specifically for air quality, like a CMAQ grant, you actually have to measure ozone. And they are kind of apples and oranges measurements of particulate matter in the atmosphere. The issue is the only ozone monitoring stations, there is not one in El Dorado County. So we would have to go and establish and set up an official ozone monitoring station, and that's a lot of effort. However, we can make a case with the purple air monitors. I don't think it's a wasted effort if we would look into that and installing them, at least a couple. So.
Okay. This is not necessarily evacuation route for all ideas of evacuation other than Highway 50 at this time. And we're working on a whole different program for evacuation for in and out of the city or the whole region. Is that correct?
Doing a preparedness plan, and I want to be careful that we don't qualify it as an evacuation plan.
Right.
because what happens is if you have a designated plan, and I'm going to look to my very qualified chiefs to correct me or throw something at me if I say something wrong here, but you have to be careful when you create an evacuation plan, because people will essentially turn off their critical thinking and defer to this plan. Well, what you lose in that kind of situation is your flexibility to move where you need to versus what has been a designated route. So, but the El Dorado County Transportation Commission is preparing an evacuation preparedness plan. And what that will do is it will assess several things, but one thing that it's specifically looking at is our countywide and local transportation network and where we need to bring our roads up to standard that could support evacuation routes should they be needed.
All right. I knew there was more to that, and
good.
Thank you.
Good job.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. We'll entertain a motion.
You want to go ahead? Okay. I move that we approve the project and authorization to award as presented.
I'll second.
All right. We have a first and a second. No further comments. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Saragosa?
Aye. Okay. Item 12. Before we go to item 12.4, I know we're going to get somebody on the line, so we'll go ahead and take just a 5-minute break, and then we'll do item 12.4. Okay, we're going to go ahead and reconvene the meeting and move on to item 12.4. And consider authorizing the city manager to draft a letter in support of H.R. 6276, renaming the Placerville Post Office for Deputy Sheriff Brian Ishmael Post Office, and authorizing the mayor and vice mayor to execute the same. And Mr. Morris has this for us this evening.
I will start here, and I'll let Mr. Warren jump in if he wants to. He actually prepared this report. This came in kind of last minute as we were preparing this agenda for this meeting. So most of the information you can see here, we received a request from Congressman Tom McClintock's office to rename the Placerville Post Office Deputy Sheriff Brian Ishmael Post Office in order of Deputy Ishmael. There is a proposed House resolution that is ready to go, and all of the information is attached here. We have on the line, I'm going to say Kimberly, and I apologize, I forget your last name. Pruitt, thank you, Kimberly Pruitt, that's right. And she is available to answer any questions you may have. I think you have all the information, the details. I don't think there's anything more I can add, but I'm happy to answer questions, or like I say, Kimberly is available to answer questions if you have any. So.
All right. Thank you, Cleve. Dave, anything else you want to? Okay. Kimberly, anything you want to, before we open this up, anything you want to add on the front end here?
Actually, no. You have the bill in front of you. We do have the family support. We have the sheriff, CLGC support. We've gone through the proper channels through the Postal Service. Typically, with bills like this, we would like the California delegation, it's a bipartisan delegation of Republicans and Democrats, all come together to support these bills. We have passed many of these in the past for fallen officers as well as fallen service members. And the congressman is very much wants to get the community support before we move forward with the bill. And typically they're non-partisan and non-controversial bills. Like I said, we have gotten support from the family. They're very honored that we would do this, and as well as the sheriff and members of the community. So I really appreciate you taking this up at the City Council, and we look forward to working with you on this.
All right. Thank you, Kimberly. Any questions or comments from colleagues?
Yeah. Kimberly, did you send the photos, Cleve?
I did.
Okay, so I took pictures of our post office. When I first saw this come up, I looked. I just thought, boy, this post office. I would not want to put my name on it. And it is in such bad. It's in such disrepair, and it's years in the making of deferred maintenance, and it's honestly it's an embarrassment for a post office in our city. And if we were to do this, I would absolutely want some assurance that that this is going to be done well before we actually get to the point. Because I understand this takes a while before we get to the point. Because as you can see in the pictures, it's an embarrassment. And so I know that Cleve talked to you about the opportunity to make some improvements there. I just want to know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, first of all, we were not aware that the post office was in that type of condition until literally today when Cleve reached out to me. So we've already today reached out to the Sacramento. We went through the congressional liaison, which is what the process is, to correct that. We had no idea. We don't know until someone tells us, and no one from the city of Placerville until today has reached out to us to let us know that the post office was in that much disrepair. So we reached out to the regional office and through the congressional liaison, and we will work on fixing that. But that has nothing to do with naming the post office. We've had fallen Marines. We named the Granite Bay Post Office. This has nothing to do with the condition of the post office. So I'm a little, surprised that we are just now hearing about how terrible the post office is. But today, just so you know, we reached out to the congressional liaison, which we've done in other cities and counties that have actually let us know that this is a problem, and we have been able to correct those things. So we are working on that. Like I said, today is the very first day that we've even heard that the post office is in disrepair, and we will be working on fixing that. But that has nothing to do with honoring this Placerville native that was killed in the line of duty. That has nothing to do with this. But yes, we will fix that, and we are working on that. And like I said, the Congressman is committed to honoring this fallen of El Dorado County, a Placerville son who lost his life in the line of duty. And yes, if the post office is in disrepair, we will work on that as well. But this bill has nothing
Kimberly,
to do with
if
that.
I could interrupt you,
This
this has
to do with
every
honoring, and the family is supporting this, the sheriff is supporting this, and the community is supporting this.
Kimberly, this has everything to do with honoring the life of Officer Ishmael, because what I would not want to do is have an event at our post office that would reflect what an amazing person he was and what an ugly post office that is. And those two do not go together. So I do appreciate that you've begun to take steps to move this forward to make that a difference, so that when this does happen and we do have the opportunity to support and embrace the life that he gave in our community, that it's done with the due respect that he deserves.
Well, and that's wonderful, and I appreciate that. And like I said, until today, no one has brought forward the concerns that the post office isn't being maintained. And now that we know that, we can correct that. But, until someone tells us, we don't know. So, like I said, I literally just found that out today, and we're already working on fixing that. So, like I said, it's up to you if you support this or not. But this is about something. We've named post offices all over our district for fallen Marines and officers. We've never had a problem. We've never had a problem getting community support for this. And it is a non-political, non-partisan issue. And as far as the maintenance of the post office, that was brought to our attention literally today. And so, yeah, we will be taking care of that. And that should not be
Okay. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Let's go ahead and open this up for public comment.
Well, I kind of like to have a little discussion before public comment.
Oh, sure. Well, I've already opened it up. We can.
Well, it's kind of pertinent because we received a letter, and I kind of wanted to know what the public thought about some.
Sure. Just a second. Just a second, Sue. That's fine.
I apologize. Well, I appreciate the opportunity for this coming to this local level and allowing us to have this local discussion after him. We've named a highway after him. We have a monument at the Sheriff's Department. So, I just want to preface that we do honor him, and we have taken measures. I don't know if everyone had an opportunity to read the letter from Mark Acuna, and really good points that I want the council and the public to consider, and that's why I kind of wanted to have a little discussion so that we have a little more dialogue.
Do you have the letter?
I forgot.
I have it if you want to.
Okay. Well, I'll just, summarize that, some of the members of our city thought that there was a better location to have that honor. We're working on putting together a public safety building with the police department and the fire department and really making some monumental movements forward and combining our services. And really, Mark felt that would better honor Deputy Ishmael's name by having, his name on that public safety building, as he was a public safety officer, and thinking about the people that are going to come behind him, and realize the sacrifice and honor. And Mark even went so far to say, let's do one better. Let's really make this meaningful and help this center happen and put some federal funding behind this to help all these things matter. I mean, these people are going to come behind someone who's given the ultimate sacrifice. Let's give them the best opportunity to follow in his footsteps and have, have the ability to do their best. Let's put our money behind our officers and really show them that we appreciate them and that we want them to have everything they need to do the best they can. And so that's, before we took public comment, I just wanted to bring up Mark's letter and that point and have the consideration of supporting the public safety building as the namesake in the city of Placerville. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
And I, too, was going to bring up the letter that Mark wrote, and I just think that it makes so much more sense to honor Brian. I don't know, for some reason, this is just falling cold with me to name a post office after him. I think that the post offices should retain the name of the city that they're in. For the public trying to find it, and et cetera, et cetera. I just think that the post offices should need to retain their city's names. That's just the way I feel. But I thought this was an excellent suggestion from Mark. We are, like Jackie said, I think we're moving forward in a pretty progressive way for the new building, and it is all about law enforcement and fire safety, and it just makes, to me, so much more sense that maybe we could, put a plaque down there dedicating a portion or just, honoring him, and because I do think we certainly can't be accused of not honoring Brian. We've supported everything that the sheriff wanted to do, and we all attended his funeral and just I think honored him, several fundraisers, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't mean it in a disparaging way to not want to go along with this, but I for some reason, this is just not setting well with me to name a post office, in his honor. I would much rather see it go elsewhere.
All right.
So in the defense of the people that brought this forward, they probably were not aware that we potentially have
I'm sure they weren't.
a police department
Is there a question in there for me?
No.
No, not yet. Oh, I don't know. Did you have a question for him?
I just clarification. This is a federal building, and it's not just a plaque on a hall. And as far as the public safety center, that's not a federal building. With a federal building, you have to have a law, you have to pass a bill through Congress. And like I said, in the past, we've never had a problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Kimberly.
The idea that this is being asserted as a problem when we're having a discussion about it is unfortunate, because I don't perceive this as a problem either. I perceive this as a conversation with our city council in working through this idea and having a meaningful discussion. So I don't think this is a problem.
Okay. So with that, any other comments from council members? We will now go ahead and open it up for public comment.
Sue Rodman, resident of Placerville, and I have a post office box at the Placerville post office. And unless they're going to build a whole new post office, I think this is ridiculous. There's already a trail. There's already a section of the freeway. There's already a monument to Brian Ishmael. As Patty brought out, everybody has honored him. This is not Brian Ishmaelville. This is Placerville. And the post office needs to have the name of the city. And I think this is just plum picking by Congress to try to grab something and make it look like, okay, we did something for Placerville. We renamed your post office. No. The city, when we get our new safety and fire building, that's appropriate place to put his name. It is not appropriate to put it on the post office. So I would like to say absolutely not to this one. I agree with Mark Acuna. I think his letter puts it all very well.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Sue.
Kathy Lishman, I agree with Sue and Jackie and Patty and Mark and the comments that Dennis made also. I'm wondering how long this has been in the works and when did the city find out about it? And the first that the public found out about it was when it was on the agenda. One size doesn't fit all as far as honoring people, and because post offices have been renamed in the past, doesn't mean that ours has to be named. We talk about community pride, and having the name Placerville across the post office really is part of that pride. There were no photos to show what it would look like. I mean, could there be a plaque on the post office? And one of the things I was going to say, I wasn't really thinking about the building, but I was thinking about the fact that there's weeds everywhere in that parking lot. And anyway, the post office should retain the name of Placerville. And maybe there's a post office in the area where he lived that would be more appropriate than changing the Placerville post office name. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. I will go ahead and close public comment. Bring it back to council.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, if staff can make a couple comments.
Yes,
basically
absolutely.
reacting to some of the things I've heard. Since code enforcement is under my purview, I just wanted to comment that we typically on a more annual basis have to remind the post office to deal with their weeds. It's currently in a bad situation. We consider it a fire hazard. But our staff, we do not go to Congress with that issue. We have a close, good working relationship with the postmaster, and we're working with the postmaster, and we want to maintain that working relationship. We wouldn't want to go over our head and go to Congress. I think that'd be a bad move on the city's part. So, but we are aware, and we are in contact with them regarding the current situation. I just want to let the council know.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. So where do we want to go here?
I don't care whether, it doesn't matter to me whether they clean up the post office or not. I'm just against renaming our
Right.
post office.
Right.
Is she still on the phone?
Yes.
Okay, can I ask her a question? Okay, Kimberly, is there an opportunity to have I mean, where is this at in the process in terms of the resolution and how it's moving through the program? Is there an opportunity to have discussions with individuals that we might want to explore a greater opportunity to look at opportunities for what we could do in this community to name a building after him that might be more relevant?
Well, yeah, there is, but we've already cleared this. This is what the family wants. So you're ignoring what the family wants. And also, the reason that this is something that we've done, Sky knows, we named a peak after him. Like, these are federal buildings. So it's not just, you're making it sound like it's just a plaque on a wall. And that is not what's happening. I got this. The family has given their support. They're very honored that the Congress will do this. You are the only ones that are opposed to this. The sheriff is supporting this, the family, this is what they want. We've gone through the proper vetting process. The only thing that we haven't done, which is what we're doing now, is to get the support from the city council, because that's what the congressman wants to move forward with this bill. If you don't support this, that's fine, but this is what the family wants. Now, the public safety building that you're talking about, we're absolutely in support of that. We will do whatever we can to help get funding for that. But this is about naming a federal building after Deputy Ishmael, which is what Congress does. And we've done this time and time again. If this is not what you want as a community, then you can vote no on this. But at the end of the day, this is what the family wants. And we have a bill that's circulating through Congress right now, which we have bipartisan support, Democrats and Republicans. So if you're so much opposed to this, then vote no on it.
Thank you, Kimberly.
That's on you.
Kimberly, thank you.
Doing
That's
what the family wants.
Kimberly, thank you. We gotcha.
Yeah. Okay.
I have to say, I've been a field rep for 3 different legislators. When I'm going to actually ask a jurisdiction to do something, I probably would have showed up in person. I also would be more respectful of the organization I was going to come speak in front of. That's a whole other issue, but this is probably not the best way to try to get a city council to vote in your direction. But that's a whole other issue. This is not for discussion. Mute the line, please. I think someone needs to go back to remedial field rep school. Anyways.
We're trying to honor a fallen deputy who is from Placerville, who, like I said, the family wants this bill.
Yeah, I would just like to say that
this is completely inappropriate, but
it's as someone who has sat in the audience for years and years and participated before I was here, I have to say that you appreciate a conversation, to be able to have a conversation before you're at a final decision, to take community input, to really hear what better ideas there might be. As my husband always says, honey, you're always improving the plan. And there's a plan here, and it's good, but there's an improvement that could be made, and it really would be nice for us to be able to have some input on that. And so I disagree with the fact that there was this hard line and this accusation of what we do and don't support. We absolutely support naming a building, and I think we've expressed that, and I think that I would like to make a motion to send a support letter for the Congress, to support putting federal funding, put your money where your mouth is, that you actually honor our officer and support our local community in putting it in an appropriate place, and helping the people that are going to come behind our officer have better opportunities.
Before you make the motion, I would like to just comment too that I can't. The way Kimberly is saying this to us is that the Ishmael family requested this, and I'm not sure that that's true. I think they might have, they were contacted and approved,
Right.
but I don't think that they requested that we change.
I'm sure if we had a conversation with the family and we talked about what we'd like to do, or we've talked about here tonight in terms of a public safety building, there might be a whole different conversation.
Exactly. And just because it's a federal building, I mean, I'm not sure that, I don't know if Kimberly's been to Placerville, but the sheriff doesn't have his jurisdiction isn't Placerville. And all the things that she named, it's not Placerville. We are Placerville, and we are representing Placerville.
Well, I appreciate that they want to honor them, but include us on what the best way to do that is.
And it's not. And in response to Kathy's question, we just found out about this too. When I found out about it when the agenda came out, so that's how long I've known about it. Okay.
I would like to consider tabling this so that we could have some discussions. It doesn't sound like it's on the fast track to getting something done in DC at this moment, that there's a little bit of time to have some conversation about this with a few people to get a better understanding of where we're at with this. I mean, to have this show up, I guess there's some expectation that we're just going to, rubber stamp it, and that we appreciate everything that the congressman has done, and that they're ready to just do something in our community, and we're just supposed to approve it. And I think that it would be better off having more conversation with our community and with possibly the Ishmaels and possibly the sheriff. I think that this might be the best idea of all the ideas, but at this point in time, I think that I don't know that they're aware of the other opportunities that we may have in this community. I don't think we just want to keep naming everything after Officer Ishmael. I think that we might find some significance in taking a pause and evaluating what opportunities we have.
Let's look for some better collaboration and discussion. I definitely would like to see that.
I agree.
So in terms of tabling the item,
I thought there was a deadline. Did I read it wrong?
I don't know that there's a hard deadline. I know that the county, and talking to them, I believe they are going to take it up at their next meeting, first meeting in August. They were hoping for us to take action prior to them.
I think that was the deadline. It was just us go first. Yeah.
But I'm assuming that we could talk to them and ask them to hold off on, if they want to wait, give us some time to research and have that talk with the congressman's office and see where that goes.
Yeah, that works.
Have a conversation with them as well. This is a broader community issue. It's not just Placerville centric. I think that
exactly.
This post office belongs to a lot of people, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities here. So I think that it's worthy of further discussion, and I think it's an important thing to do. And I don't think we should.
I don't like being thrust on us last minute.
Okay, so from Mona, if we just want to table this item, can we just? I don't want to. Does it have to be necessarily a vote on the specific resolution?
No, but we should have a motion to continue this item to a future date.
I move that we continue this item to our first meeting in August.
Second.
Okay, we have a first
question.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you want to make it that certain, or do you want to leave it open?
Yeah, I was going to say we might need some flexibility.
If we have not been able to conclude the discussions we want to have by then?
I would say at the latest our second meeting in August. I think we need to have a date certain.
I mean, I'm open. If you want to keep it first meeting,
If you feel that second meeting, I'm good with that. I just feel like it's important enough that we have a conclusion to this.
Okay.
So we have amend your motion to the second?
I would amend my motion to the second meeting in August. No later than the second meeting in August.
No later than, right.
Okay, and we have a second. We have any other comments or discussion items? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Councilmember No?
Aye.
Councilmember Thomas?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Zaragoza?
Aye. All right, thank you, everybody. All right, moving on to council reports, item 13, El Dorado County Transit Authority.
We did not have the regular meeting in July.
All right. El Dorado Transportation Commission.
No.
No meeting in July.
LAFCO.
We have not had a meeting since our last council meeting.
SACOG is also dark, so no meeting there. Pioneer.
We haven't had a meeting.
All right.
Is it time? No meetings.
Placerville Fire Safe Council.
Yes, they've had a meeting.
All right, there you go. You got a winner.
They said a lot of things. And it's just, I'm not going to go into all of it, but again, you heard at the League of Cities meeting, you heard Mark, and he presented, he presented a beautiful program to the, and it's everything that's going on is all about what's being done. All the fire safe councils and what they're doing to prepare and how they're approaching it. Mark gave a presentation where he indicated that the folks that they had quite a round table, and this just made so much sense to me, that we've seen a lot of discussion, and a lot of that discussion were things that they promoted that would work, and it hasn't worked. And so what are we going to do? And I think that's what they're circling around now. At least that's what I perceived. And like he was, okay, here's an indication. Grizzly Flat, they had a fire plan, and you saw what happened. And so they're taking all these things into consideration of what has been happening, why didn't it work, how could they make it work better, what do they do? So I think that's the approach that's happening. And then as far as our local level, we are considering like the same 4 districts that Chief Wren has divided Placerville into, and they're talking about trying to find captains for those districts, people that would be, take charge, kind of coordinate it, and having, and Mark said many times, he said, don't expect government to do it all. People have got to step forward and take some responsibility, and we need more volunteers, and et cetera. And he said the volunteers that he's looking for are folks that have the knowledge. While he appreciates, our folks like me that know nothing about fire, coming forward, but that's what they're looking for, and that's what they need. So that's kind of, did I say it all right, Sue? Okay. So that's what's going on.
All right. Thank you, Patty. Questions? All right. No 2x2 and no opportunity knocks COC. So any public comments on on item 13? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to item 14. Any requests for future agenda items?
What we talked about tonight.
Yep. Okay. Done. All right. Moving on to item 15, city manager and staff reports, and we have 2 reports from the police and from fire. And I don't know, Chief Wren, if you anything you want to highlight?
We're just busy. Summertime brings a bunch of people out and into the community. So the team over at Placerville PD has done a great job of keeping a lid on everything. So knock on wood, that continues.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief? All right. Chief Cordero?
Thank you. Just a couple things. Just a couple things. We did send a strike team down to the electrifier that started on July 4th. They did return last Friday. We recently, on Friday, we also had a promotional ceremony for an engineer captain, and our fire marshal, Captain Sterling, who's been the interim fire marshal, is now Division Chief Sterling and the permanent fire marshal. So congratulations to him. And then with the downstaffing of Medic 49, as reported last time, we did relocate one ambulance station 28, Medic 28 up to Station 48. Those medic units have been getting worked with the absence of that 8th medic unit. So if you happen to catch the numbers on the units that are cruising around town, it's everybody, and if you see those folks, offer them a cup of coffee. The medic units are really getting worked hard, and those guys are doing a phenomenal job, but it's been a rough go for them. So.
Thank you, Chief. How has it been in terms of illegal fire, campfires, things like that?
So far, it's been pretty quiet, so we'll keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully it stays that way the rest of the summer.
The police department has arrested and cited several for illegal campfires.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that.
All cops really want to be firefighters, so I'm not surprised.
And we put them out without their help.
Thank you, gentlemen. Any public comment? We'll open up public comment for item 15. All right, seeing none. Any other, Cleve, anything else? That's it? Okay. Item 16, there's quite a few upcoming items that I'll let people read through there. So we will move to item 17, which is adjournment, and at 7:45. That's right. We will be dark for the second meeting in July, and the next scheduled meeting of the City Council will be on August the 9th. So have a good rest of your July, Placerville. Bye.